I'm telling you guys, this is wild. This guy who victimized a member of the public still doesn't understand this. Stay tuned because we got to talk about it. Don't we, Raymond?
Oh gosh, can't I go home and play with blocks and fire trucks or something?
All right, we got to talk about this update from the San Angelo, Texas Police Department and the incident that happened with Jack Miller at this Walmart. Now, this guy right here is Officer Francis. He was the commanding officer. The guy wearing the body cam is Weber. And then there's Mayberry over here to the right behind me. But what I wanted to talk about was there's this issue of penal codes, specifically Penal Code 38. And we know that the penal codes are just used to prescribe punishment to offenders. Offenders meaning people who have actually committed a crime. Now, I'm going to read this penal code. It's from chapter 38, and we're going to go over 3802, and then we're going to talk about this internal investigation on this Francis guy. This Francis Blinky officer is the guy who is the commanding officer on the scene that initiated the violence against Jack Miller. Jack Miller, in turn, filed a lawsuit against the police department, and the city, that's the taxpayers, the American tax cattle in that area, had to pay a hefty sum, as far as I'm concerned, of $125,000. But we know that doesn't come out of Francis's pocket. It doesn't come out of Officer Weber's pocket. It doesn't come out of Officer Mayberry's pocket. It comes out of your pocket if you live in that area. And then insurance premiums go up, and then your taxes go up, your property taxes or whatever it is that's used to cover that. But it's not going to come out of their pocket. They're not going to get charged with the crime that they committed like they should. If you did to Jack Miller what these cops did to Jack Miller for no freaking reason, you would be behind bars right now. So this 3802 is a code of conduct obstructing government operations is what it says. It says, under restraint by any agent or an agent or employee of a facility that is operated by or under contract with the United States that confines persons arrested for, charged with, or convicted of criminal offenses. And that is the key. It's about criminal offenses. And then we get to 3802. And the reason we're talking about this is because Raymond Francis here has not learned 3802, even though the interview you're about to see with the internal investigations video that we're about to see, this occurred 51 days after the incident with Jack Miller. So if there was anything on top of Officer Raymond Francis's priority list, it's I need to understand 3802. 3802 is what was being quoted to all three officers by Jack Miller as he was being thrown against the cooler in the Walmart checkout line in front of his screaming child, by the way. Who does that? Oh, I think it's psychopaths do that. Section 3802 says, and there's stuff here that I have a problem with, guys, because nothing in 3802 is in concert with the Fourth Amendment. A person has the right to be secure in his person, houses, papers, effects, but cops use "we got a call" to strip you of those rights. And that's what they say. We got a call that you were publicly intoxicated, driving into a parking lot, driving under the influence while there's a toddler in the car. We got a call. You don't lose your rights because they got a call. It says section 3802, failure to identify. A person commits an offense if he intentionally refuses to give his name, residence, address, or date of birth to a peace officer who has, and here's key, lawfully arrested the person and requested the information. Lawfully arrested based on what? It needs to be based on not reasonable, articulable suspicion from Terry v. Ohio, but probable cause, the probable cause standard of the Fourth Amendment. And that's lawfully arrested. It's supposed to be in concert with the Fourth Amendment. And then one more thing I want to show you before we roll this video right here is that what is the difference between arrest and detainment? Because I don't see any difference. Practically speaking, if you're arrested, can you walk away from officers? No, you can't. Not without some serious repercussions. If you're detained by officers, can you walk away from that interaction? No, you can't. So either way, you've lost your freedom, whether it's temporary or an extended temporary or whatever you're talking about. If you're arrested or if you're detained, practically speaking, you have lost your right during that time frame, during that bracketed time frame. So they say the primary difference between detainment and arrest is one of degree. You might be detained when the police suspect you committed a crime. So the detention is based on suspicion or reasonable articulable suspicion. That's detainment. But to place a suspect under arrest, the police must have probable cause to believe you committed an illegal act or committed a crime. So if you've, and really it shouldn't be an illegal act. It should be, did you harm somebody? Did you threaten somebody? Did you damage somebody's property and not pay for it? Those should be the standards, not did you commit an illegal act? Did you do something the politicians told you not to do? That shouldn't be the standard. The standard should be, did you harm somebody? Did you actually leave a real victim? Because if there is no victim, there is no crime. So the question is, did Officer Francis learn his lesson about at least 3802? Now let me just remind you, I'm going to pull it back up here. 3802 is very simple. 3802 is one frickin' sentence. I didn't count the words, but there's not many. There's not more than 50 words in 3802. The person has to be lawfully arrested before you can demand and expect him to give away his identity. Has to be lawfully arrested. Let's see if Officer Francis understands that simple concept that you may or may not agree with, but 3802 is there, and those are supposed to be the marching orders for the San Angelo Police Department and Officer Francis. Let's listen to what he says as he first recounts what happened in Walmart and then tells us what his understanding of 3802 actually is, because he doesn't get it right still 51 days later.
We're talking with him, just asking him, just want to get some general information. Mayberry's telling me, asked him, I think at some point asked him if he'd been drinking anything or intoxicated or something. And the guy was like, no, do I look like it? I don't remember what Mayberry's answer was to him at that point. I was just trying to watch him, keep an eye on the kiddo, make sure, kid's not going to do anything. Obviously, I don't want to fall out of the basket.
I'm going to keep an eye on a 3-year-old. The 3-year-old's not going to do it. I was keeping an eye on him, and then he changed it to, like, what's he going to do? Is he going to pick up a stick of gum and stab you with it in the checkout line at Walmart? And then he changes it to just making sure that he's not going to fall out of the basket or something. Yeah, that's what you were doing. That's what you were doing, Raymond.
Talking to him, just asking for his name and stuff. He's like, what do you want my name? What's going on? Just like, know who I'm talking with. Mayberry explains to him again why we're talking with him. When I tell him again, at first he tells me his name is, I thought he said Zach, but he told me later, he told me Jack. So I got confused at some point why the name. Any which way. Talking with him, just trying to tell him, hey, just give me your information. We'll be out of here. Just trying to explain to him, we'll be done here in a minute. Just let us know what's going on. Let him know what's going on. Just give us your information. He starts reciting the statute and all that.
Let me ask you something.
Sir.
At this point, was he being detained or was it a consensual contact?
I never told him he was detained. Officer Mayberry never told me he was detained. So it probably could be looked at as a consensual contact at that point.
So you're treating this as a consensual contact at this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But I did. Go ahead.
Was there anything to lead you to believe that he was intoxicated?
I had a mask on, so I couldn't smell anything. But looking at his eyes and listening to him, I wasn't getting kind of telltale signs that we look for, slurred speech, bloodshot eyes, anything like that. I wasn't seeing anything like that.
So he admits that he didn't see what they got the call for. We got a call that you were intoxicated. Okay, now you're on the scene. Now this guy's standing before you. Now you even admit. He even admitted in the body cam video that night, I couldn't smell anything on his breath. He didn't give any signs that he was intoxicated or anything. Okay, so let the guy go. And even though he said he didn't see the signs, they still threw him up against the cooler in Walmart. They still put him in cuffs. They still executed and initiated violence on him in front of his kid. And they did it with the body cams rolling.
Or hearing it.
But in your mind, y'all are consensually contacting
Yeah.
or detaining?
I'm looking back at now. I'm probably looking at it as a consensual. Is probably more. We were probably handling more as a detainment at that time. It should have been just handled as consensual, and just we should have been done with it.
Probably. How about definitely? There's no see, he's so evasive in his language. He really wants to get his butt out of a sling here.
Also, Weber asked us, where we're at. Tell Weber, hey, we got him. We're over here by the self checkout. Also, Weber comes in. The three of us are talking with him at this point. I can't remember exact details how everything goes from this point. I know Weber asked me, is he under arrest for failed ID? Because we remember telling him, okay, you could be arrested for failed ID. That's where we're going with thinking now we're treating as a detainment. But looking back at it now, we should have done it as a consensual and just been done.
But at that point in time, were y'all detaining him?
It was being detainment.
So he was being detained
Yes, sir.
and refusing to identify himself?
Yes, sir.
Okay. At that time, what was your understanding of the law pertaining to being detained and refusing to ID yourself?
And just to clarify, what is your understanding of Section 3802 in the Texas Penal Code?
I was looking at the charge of failed ID.
Based
That was-
on,
Him not giving us the information who he was.
because like I said, what was your understanding? You felt like somebody being detained had to give you their name,
Yes, sir.
and you
Yeah.
since
I've re-educated myself, talked to Sergeant Gallo, the next day, me and him sat there for, 15, 20, 30 minutes. I can't give you an exact time frame, but he sat there and me and him looked at it and we talked about it, explained it to me. I've looked at it since then also just to keep myself refreshed and stuff like that.
so a person being detained, what's the law say? What's the penal code say about giving their name?
If it's a lawful detainment, then yes, they have to identify themselves to us.
If it's a lawful detainment. Now, again, I don't see a practical difference between arrest and detainment, but they seem to think that they understand. So he said if it's a lawful detainment, yeah, they got to give us their name. Even though the penal code doesn't say anything about detainment, it says everything about lawfully arrested. This guy, 51 days later, says he's, self-proclaimed educated. I'm a reconstructed individual. I've learned my lesson. I talked to, 20, 30 minutes. They talked to me. I looked over it. I got it. I'm educated. No, you're not.
If it's a lawful detention,
Yes, sir.
okay.
What's your understanding, just so I'm clear, what is your understanding if you have somebody detained and they don't want to give you the name?
If they don't want to give his name at that point, that's when I would go with effective arrest. But
What the frick?
And you spent time reviewing that law since then?
I haven't looked at it recently. I looked at it for
So you spent time reviewing 3802, did you? Well, you walked away with a serious misunderstanding, buddy.
probably the first few days and weeks after it.
Well, that'd be not correct.
I don't know if you heard it. It's very difficult to hear. That would be not correct.
You could not force someone to give a name unless they're arrested.
Okay.
That's the kind of the heart of this. Is that if they're detained and they give a false name, then you can arrest them for failure to identify. If they are lawfully detained and they provide false information, but if they just don't tell you the name, then they have to be arrested for another offense.
Okay. Then I need to reread again and correct myself.
He clearly doesn't care. This isn't important to him. He's going to continue throwing people in cuffs because they refused to identify. See, give me your ID is like crack to a cop. They got to have it. They got to have it. And he's one of them. And he doesn't care what the penal code says. He definitely doesn't care what the Fourth Amendment says. He doesn't care if it's an arrest. He doesn't care if it's a detainment, as though those were different things. He doesn't care. He had 51 days to brush up on a one sentence paragraph 3802 and get it down into his cranial structure. And he didn't care enough to do that. And his crime was caught on body camera. How many crimes has this guy committed in how long has he been on the force? 8, 10, 12 years? I don't know. How much does he make? Does he make 70, 80, 90,000, $100,000 a year? I don't know. But I do know that he and his actions cost the city, cost taxpayers $125,000, and he still doesn't care 51 days later.
Well, if you went back to the same call when you left here, went back to Walmart, same exact call, and the guy won't get, he's being detained. And
Been done with it.
Huh?
I'd have been done with it. Just let him go. He's not. I mean, I'm not.
I just
seeing
want to
anything.
make sure,
No,
Brandon,
I.
that you understand the law, so we don't have to do this again.
Yes, sir. No, I understand.
If I was IA, I'd be like, do you understand that you violated the individual rights of an American? Do you know that you took an oath to the Constitution to protect people's identities and you went across that? You violated your oath. I'm about to rip that stupid badge off your lapel, bud. Do you understand that you're about to lose your job? Do you understand you're about to be charged? Do you understand that if somebody else did what you did, they'd be committing, they'd be charged with a felony and they'd be behind bars right now? Well, that's where I aim to put you, buddy. That's what IA should be doing.
That's my mistake. Like I said, it's been a while since I've read it again, so will re-educate myself and read it. And
So
make sure
let me
I
ask you
fully
this
understand.
way. Under this, pertaining to this incident, you're detaining this guy and he didn't want to identify himself. Could you lawfully arrest him?
No, sir.
Could you arrest him if he lied to you about his ID?
No, sir. Didn't have with Sergeant Griffith's, information that didn't have a lawful arrest.
If you're detaining somebody and they lie to you, you can arrest them for failure to ID.
Yeah, if they lie.
If they lie to
Right.
you. Okay. I think you need to brush up on this law quite a bit.
Yes, sir.
You seem confused.
If the government, I'm not confused about this. If the government lies to you, it's just policy. If you lie to them, that's a felony.
Brandon, just to be honest with you.
Yes, sir.
One thing that kind of came to mind when this popped up, I'm not trying to
I love this. Now he's going to go back in Francis's past, where the guy who's speaking on this internal investigation team is used to be his commanding officer as a sergeant. This is interesting.
bring up old stuff, but you remember whenever it was probably about 5 years ago, and I was your sergeant on patrol, and you had a guy that kind of a similar thing happened over at those where it was like a halfway house for people that are suffering from mental illness over behind Shannon, and he
Yes, sir. I remember this you're talking about.
you had him lawfully detained. You had an articulable detention, but he didn't want to give you his name. And during that shift, we kind of found out about it, and me and the lieutenant talked to you about it. And very similar, that you had a good detention, he just wasn't going to tell you, and you arrested him for failure to ID, and then we went back and unarrested him and told him to drop the charges, and you remember that. So that's one thing that just kind of stood out, is that yes, this is it's a commonly misunderstood law. It really is. You're not the only one, but you got to make sure that for leaving a good impression for the younger guys like me, be able to say that to brush up on that. So,
Commonly misunderstood if you're a low IQ, low quality, immoral idiot. I would say that Section 3802 is not difficult to understand at all. And further, I would go further. I would say cops don't need 3802. All they need is Fourth Amendment. This person that stands before me has the right to be secure in his person, and I don't have the right to make him insecure in his person. That's all you need to know. So after 51 days, and years before that, he obviously has a pattern of arresting people for not IDing. He obviously has a problem with you not submitting and bowing down to his authority, and he's going to use the authority of the state to put those cuffs on you and basically throw you into a cruiser and take you down for fingerprinting so that you can go into an RAPE cage. This guy's got a serious problem, just like Mayberry has a serious problem, Weber has a serious problem, and this guy has a serious problem. All of them should be charged, arrested, their pensions stripped from them. They should be sitting behind bars, and they should have paid the $125,000 settlement, not the taxpayers. See, it's time for these people to pay for their own liability insurance. So if they are directly responsible for committing a crime against a member of the public, they're the ones who get charged. The settlement is exacted against them, not the city, not the taxpayer. If you disagree with anything, especially if you disagree with, detention versus arrest, tell me if you see any practical difference between detention and arrest other than the word salad of, well, if it's a detention, we hold them because of suspicion. If it's an arrest, we hold them because of probable cause. I don't see a difference. Either way, you're being held. Either way, you don't have freedom. Either way, it's not consensual. Either way, you can't walk away without punishment. Leave your thoughts about this. I want to hear what you have to say. If you disagreed with anything, let me know. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell notification icon. Give it a thumbs up. Share it with everybody you know. Don't forget to subscribe to my email list through my website, highimpactflix.com. If you want to support the channel, the links are in the description. Grab a hard-hitting conversation starting design that you can put on a shirt, hoodie, mug, cell phone case, whatever you want. Remember, freedom is dangerous. It always has been. It always will be. But the thing exponentially more dangerous is not having freedom. I'll see you in the next video.